Fix the country. That's the clarion call by some Ghanaians who have since yesterday been expressing their frustration with what they describe as the high cost of living. Their complaints come as new taxes come into effect officially from today. Many say the cost of water, electricity and others is burdening them. This afternoon, conveners of the hashtag Fix the Country Now social media protest have written to the police to notify them of their intention to stage a protest over hardships in the country and the neglect of leadership. The group, in a notice to the Ghana Police Service over the planned protest, said the event is being organized on the back of a string of consistently broken promises by successive governments and in the exercise of their democratic rights as citizens to express frustration over perennial government incompetence, refusal and or inability to fix the country. I quote, "We will speak with conveners of the group shortly, but some commercial drivers are unhappy about the increase in fuel prices." Two driver unions, Concerned Drivers Union and True Drivers Union, say they are rolling out a 40% increase in transport fares by Monday. My colleague Faustina Safo has been out there speaking with the drivers.
I think the price is too high. I don't know if it's because of the taxes or what. I think the government can do something about it. Honestly, something needs to be done. And once fuel price goes up, it affects everything.
For me, actually we sell online, okay? And once we sell online, the fuel price goes up. It makes some of these clients have difficulty to order the stuff that they do. So imagine a client is buying something 65 cedis and have to pay a delivery of 40 cedis. How would they come back and buy again if the delivery is so exorbitant?
So far the fuel prices have gone up. We know that obviously it's going to affect a lot of things. And it's obviously, if it affects a lot of things, okay, negatively, we know the hardship that it will be on the workers if workers' salaries have not been increased.
Aban we oban anya sa anwum no woto ye. Oba se oba na ye nyina ye ho ato ye. Ya driver 43. Efa petrol hu nsem. Enso oba no de bia petrol ko soro. Ye nti ase. Sa no nka oba na ko sa no kan ye nto ma no. Enti onso ho na petrol nsem in fact. Yes, you put two petrol gun on so you won't some fast.
To be frank, auntie, for any dear, a year high to the extent that we are Juma, yes, we are Juma for Swanty. Some, but yeah, because unya, Unchiru, we are Juma hand to mouth. So, Intanka, slow by an uncle and share. Boy, I also just obey a baby, my yes, way, then your home at Toyanka crap because you see a gun for.
Well, so much too much. Yes, we scan Nick room and say, "I my own chair. You to the abandoned Kakaka, the Jumano. Full of motor, show much on Tismaka, Crasina Bay, Suvenia Cadazio Botum, Neddy my ceremony and bound on Monsieur Question Marshall School, their cost and continue dancing."
Well, the increase in fuel prices may have a rippling effect on the prices of goods and services. So brace yourself to pay more. I'm Faustina Safo for Joy News.
Now, like we said earlier, the Energy Minister has been meeting with stakeholders over a possible reduction in fuel prices. Duncan Amwa is a member of the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. He is indeed the head of that chamber, and he joins us on the line. Mr. Amwa, we understand you've been in that meeting with the Energy Minister. What has come out of it?
Thank you, Daniel. We closed not long ago from a meeting convened by the Energy Minister on the back of recent increases in fuel prices. We had requested that he exercise his authority in calling the NPA to order by reviewing some of the margins that the NPA has slapped on your fuel prices, which saw fuel prices move over and above everybody's pocket. That social media has been abuzz since yesterday when these new prices started coming out. The minister has listened to all sides, and what I can confirm is that he has decided, as the Minister for Energy Republic of Ghana, to review these margins down by as much as 8%. And for that, we at COPEC can only say thank you. for listening and prompt and appropriate action that he's taking so far.
So, Mr. Amwa, when you say 8 pesewas, are we talking about 8 pesewas per litre or per gallon?
No, per every single litre. He's reviewed those margins down. What I can confirm is that the NPA had added 3 pesewas to UPPF. The minister shut it down to 2. They had added, 5 pesewas to fuel marking margin. He shut that down to 5. So he shut it down by 3. And then again, both margin, he shut it down by at least 2 pesewas on there. And then he also shut the PDM margin by a pesewa further. And so, he's given some 8 pesewas relief to us on pump prices. And these relief would be taking effect, effectively immediate, but most likely to reflect at the pump tomorrow.
Mr. Amwa, what would you say to those who argue that an 8 pesewa reduction will not do much to cushion what most drivers and what most transport operators have been going through?
I would be tempted to agree with them. It wouldn't do as much as we would have wished. If those who came to the meeting would say, we were hoping that we would scrap everything completely. But then there's also some other compelling argument for why some of these margins would have to go up. All well and good. The minister at least has listened to what we all have to say and has taken the right steps, if you ask some of us. It might not be as much, but for significance, he has done something. I'm sure in the coming days, public pressure and public discussion and agitation could also help. Even the presidency or the authorities look at the fuel pricing properly and see how best we can reduce in significant numbers some of these price indicators. But as it is, the whole deregulation policy, if you listen to the minister today, would also be scrutinized in the coming days. And wherever there are excesses, I'm sure the minister will do the needful like he has done today.
Mr. Amwa, help us understand that better, your very final line. What does the minister mean when he says he's going to look at the deregulation policy which was implemented as far back as 2015?
Clearly, one expected that policy to have triggered a certain market competition. We haven't seen that much. The policy is currently fraught with a lot of challenges as far as third-party supplies is concerned. And so you have people sometimes loading products. They have legitimate license to load, but they get all sorts of exemptions and are able to price these products far cheaper than the market should ordinarily price it. What happens is they collapse the very legitimate one, do not contribute the taxes that they need to contribute. And that clearly would make authorities want to come back every time for more taxes, whereas there's quite a lot in the system already. So it needs quite a bit of tweaking, and we would be happy that in the coming days, like he's promised, we would subject the entire policy to some comprehensive, I don't know how to call it, but if you put it under the microscope, whatever germs or bacteria in there, I'm sure we'll be able to expunge them, further reducing fuel prices for Ghanaians.
Do you foresee a return to the regime before deregulation where government through the NPA was putting out the ex-pump price and all BDCs and OMCs had to comply with that directive?
Daniel, at current market segmentation, we are not far from almost a regulated pricing market. If you saw yesterday, when Vivo put out their pricing, it didn't take quite too long. You saw the other giants, Total, give you similar pricing. So you end up wondering, where exactly does the deregulation play? Are they buying from the same source? Are they pricing from the same boardroom? In name, yes, there's a deregulated market, but in practice, there's quite too little at this point to distinguish these market forces.
So
and
you would
a
support
thorough review is necessary and due at this time.
So you would support a return to a regulated market?
Not entirely, Daniel. Deregulation is not entirely a bad policy, but of course, there's quite some encumbrances here and there that need to be dealt with. One would expect that the little inefficiencies in there that is also contributing to high fuel prices. The minister would at least look at these things like he has promised and get them fixed. It will be in the interest of everybody if we could get back to the round table and after deliberating on these, the third-party supplies like the OMCs today have indicated is a problem to them. If after looking at all the possible issues surrounding this, if the ministry is able to still do further 5-10%, I'm sure that will be also pretty significant for Ghanaians to get some further relief.
Now, Mr. Amwa, you mentioned that if it is possible, we can remove some 5 or 10 pesewas. The last time I checked with the experts, about 35 to 40% of every litre of fuel that we buy is going to taxes. I mean, the amount we pay per litre of fuel goes to taxes, 35 to 40%. Are there any specific levies in there that you have identified in your position could be done away with?
Daniel, I can confirm to you, as of this morning, your taxes per litre has climbed to as much as 60%.
Say that again for me. Say that again for me, Mr. Duncan Amwa, for emphasis. Did you say 6?
Per litre on your current price build-up is in the region of 60%.
60?
Yes, we were doing around 46, 48. And then you do have about 12% additional taxes added, the new charges you have at the pump. So it's gone up quite significantly. And if you ask off the top of my head, if I were acting as the Minister for Energy, or if I were to stand in his shoes or the shoes of cabinet, or for that matter, government altogether, this price stabilization and recovery levy, I would have done away with it. If I also had my own way, Daniel, I would have done away entirely with the first margin that today is standing at 10%. If I had my own way, I would reduce significantly what you call the energy sector levies that the finance ministry has today added another 20% to the 48 that existed already. These are quite a few of the taxes that we believe can be looked at better. And if the minister or the government finds it worthy, they could still go down on further.
Now, Mr. Amwa, if my memory serves me well, and I stand to be corrected here, the price stabilization and recovery levy was introduced way back in 2015 thereabouts, when at the time the international oil pricing for crude was going down to as low as $40, close to $20 per barrel. Government introduced that so that the revenue we get from selling our crude is complemented by how much we pay when we buy our fuel. Would you say, because at the time, the price projection for the year that Mr. Tekpe put in his budget was $53 per barrel, and we were selling our oil for about $40 per barrel. International crude prices are north of 60 now. Would you say that the price stabilization and recovery levy has outlived its importance because we are selling oil at a price that we can recoup enough revenues from?
Indeed, Daniel, your question captures our sentiment aptly. You couldn't have asked it any better. We do not have any justification at this point to continue charging PSRL against Ghanaians, knowing very well that we are not even subsidizing fuel for anybody. We are not stabilizing anything for anyone. A deregulated market throws out its own prices, and the BDGs are not coming to you for forex differential. And so it's quite baffling why we continue to charge our people that which we call stabilization and recovery levy. I'm sure that has become almost a nuisance tax at this point and must give way in the face of these increasing costs of fuel within the country.
That's well and good, sir, but we know that with the energy sector levies, justification has been made for it, especially by the finance minister reading the last budget when it was increased. I mean, for instance, we know that the ESLA bond that was procured by this government is going to clear some of the legacy debts in the energy sector. We've taken a loan and we are taking these taxes to pay off that loan bit by bit so that basically the banks don't crash. Is that not an essential tax that we cannot do without?
Daniel, what is quite sad for some of us, if you look at how much you and I are paying towards the energy sector, yet we continue to have so much of debt as far as the power side is concerned. You get worried and start asking, are we indeed advancing these extra money to the originally intended purposes for which we did set them up? I do not think that our ESLA collection is properly being accounted for anyway. I also do not think that we are even applying the revenues from ESLA for the intended purposes for which we have come to the people to collect these monies. If you do 48 pesewas per litre, multiplied by the 11.7 million you do daily, multiplied by the almost 350 million litres you do monthly, that is a significant amount of money anytime. Unfortunately, the energy sector, i.e. the power sector, continues to reel under huge debt. The debt only keeps growing whilst we keep paying, and I do not think that those monies have been accounted for adequately, or their uses have been as judicious as they would have expected. Ghanaians would have expected the authorities to use these money.
But finally, Mr. Amwa, before we let you go, because we'll soon be speaking with the Concerned Drivers Association, we're coming out of one of the most difficult economic years globally. Some are calling it the greatest crisis in recent times. I mean, the COVID-19 pandemic. Surely, government needs the money, every single pesewa that we can pay them.
Yes. You know, when we talk of COVID, the impact was not on government alone. It was on everybody, especially businesses, especially individuals, homes, and everything. And so it becomes quite difficult if government would wish to offload all the challenges to the individuals, as though the individuals within the country or the citizens didn't suffer from the harsh ravages or whatever conditions that COVID brought to all of us. And so what we are saying is that, look, collect as much as you can, but also be sensitive to the suffering of the people from whom you are collecting these monies. That is all we've been saying. We are not saying don't add taxes, but we are saying that do so in moderation, bearing in mind that the people from whom you are collecting these taxes are themselves also, inconvenienced by COVID altogether and are not finding it any easier than government itself is probably finding it currently.
Mr. Amwa, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon on The Pulse. Amwa is Executive Director for the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers. Like I said earlier, we've been joined by David Agboado. He's Public Relations Officer for the Concerned Drivers Association. They intend to increase fares by 40% on Monday. Mr. Agboado, thanks for joining us. First of all, what's your reaction to the news that you'll be paying 8 pesewas less per litre from tomorrow?
Mr. Dazi, thank you very much. But that is not a news to me. The reason why it's not a news to me, Mr. Amwa, that Kanamo has explained everything. You see, those nuisance taxes on our petroleum sector must be scrapped off. That one will be a news. Store recovery levy is still operating, so we are paying a levy. Price stabilization margin, is the price stabilized that we are paying that margin. So those nuisance taxes are not tax that we're supposed to pay. So to me, that 8 pesewas or something that they have been doing, they have cheated or they have stealing it for so long. To me, it's not a news to me.
So, Mr. Agbado, I just want to know and get this confirmation that in spite of the 40%, in spite of the 8 pesewas decrease of fuel prices per litre, you still intend to increase your fares by 40% on Monday. Is that the case?
Yes, it will be so. Because early this year, the petrol price early this year was 19 cedis 45 pesewas. But as I'm talking to you now, almighty Gov't, which is owned by the state, is selling it for a litre price for 6 cedis 13 pesewas. That's a litre price. The gallon, if you calculate it, is 27 cedis 58 pesewas per gallon. That's what the state or the government is taking from us. So you taking out of 80 pesewas out of that money, you have taken 8 cedis from us, and you say you are taking 8 pesewas out of it. You have done something. You haven't. It's not even a tip of the iceberg. 8 pesewas out of 8 cedis. Does that mean something to us? No. So that 8 pesewas, to me, yes, sir, it's not very relevant to me.
Okay. Mr. Agbado, since you mentioned toll recovery levy, I'm reading to you from a publication put out in 27 September 2016 on BNFT, where Mr. Kwame Wadaku, who was at the time MD of toll, mentioned that the toll debt recovery levy has to go on for another 10 years to 2026 before the woes of toll are, should we say, out of our books. Is this not something that this government possibly cannot do much about?
You know something? What are the wounds of the toll? What are the wounds of the toll that they talk of before saying the wounds will be healed? Nobody knows it. It is them that sit around something and concur and come out with something that toll is on this thing. Because now everything must be accounted for. And we are not seeing this thing. Once we are not seeing this thing, and you are saying we should pay for it, it's not there. You see, when Mr. Duncan Amwa was talking, I was listening attentively. What he says for is right. You see, we have automatic adjustment formula. That deregulation is the paramount that we think it will be like when you go to Shell, you will get it like 6 cedis, 10 pesewas. When you go to Total, you get it like 5 cedis, 99 pesewas. But yes, sir, you go to Total, you get it 6 cedis, 13 pesewas. You go to Gov't, the same thing. You go to Shell, the same thing. So where is the deregulation? So all these things that they have bought and keep it honest that we are paying is senseless. Sorry to say, it's very, very senseless.
Well, we'll take those apologies, Mr. Agbado, for using the expression. But for the sake of educating the public, I just wanted to read for you very quickly what exactly was said about the toll debt recovery levy when it was being charged. Now, according to Mr. Wadaku, I read from the BNFT publication from 2016, government is keen on raising a 917 million Ghana cedi long-term loan facility, which will last a 10-year period to settle toll's indebtedness. So basically, Mr. Wadaku told us at the time that we've taken a loan to settle toll's indebtedness back in 2016. It will take us another 10 years to pay. You or I can't do anything about it. But I acknowledge those said that this is just one of the many taxes in the build-up, and Mr. Duncan Amwa did mention a number of other taxes there. But clearly, with the toll situation, not that much can be done. We've taken the loan, we have to pay it off.
Mr. Dazi, all that you said is somebody saying, I'm still on that point. That you see, it's a word that work can come and say this because he is managing there. We in our side, when we go to the pump to buy the fuel, those margins, which as I'm talking to you, I would say 99% of the drivers doesn't know the taxes on the petroleum sector or the petrol. They didn't know anything about it. What they know is Yatufangumu or the fuel price have been increased. But the taxes, the components on it, they didn't know anything, except we that are, doing the communication bit.
Right.
That is why we are able to know one or two things. Even the current administration of, let me say, GPIQ, much of them doesn't know the taxes, the component that is on the petroleum sector. So when they go to bargain, instead of them pointing out things that are not tangible, pointing out things that are, if the state or the state representatives come, oh, this is how much we are coming out with. We are coming out with 15%. That ends it. Meanwhile, you see, this transport business that we are doing, it is not only fuel that we are adding up, or it is not fuel that we are using to do the transport business. Other components have added to it. So if we base on fuel alone and say we are coming out with 10 or 15%, it doesn't work well.
Right.
Because DVLA charges this very year have been up by 15%. Port has increased paper charges 40%. You see, if you add all those things together before you come out with fuel, like 14%, if you boil up these things all to the transport, in fact, it's unbearable. It's unbearable. That's why we concerned drivers, we are saying the 40% that we want, government should give it to us so that we can be able to run the transport efficiently.
What happens if government refuses to agree with you with your 40% increment? Government does negotiations through the GRTCC, which I'm sure has the GPRTU on it. If government says do not increase by 40%, what do you do?
We will still do something about it. The reason why we will still do something about it is that, you see, it will be, the negotiation is ongoing. I know tomorrow we'll go to the table and we will still negotiate. And when Mr. Amwa was talking, I don't know, I joined it later, but I don't know whether he explained that this is only tax company that have been able to issue. The oil marketing company itself, they will be increasing fuel soon or later. They will be increasing fuel. And it will all add up. And if they increase, we will not increase first again. That's why we are calling for this percentage to settle it up so that we will not be agitating the next days or the next month to come that we want increments on fuel. So when we go to the table tomorrow, I know before the price come out tomorrow, we will be able to settle at least 40%.
Thank you very much, David Abuado. He speaks for the Concerned Drivers Union. Now, one of the conveners for the hashtag Fix the Country Now, Oliver Barker Vomawo, has joined me on Zoom. Mr. Vomawo, thank you very much. You're protesting on Sunday. Why? Mr. Vomawo, why are you embarking on a protest on Sunday?
Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear, sir.
Yes. So I'm saying that we're protesting because this country has lost its soul. For so long, we've been lacking honesty in our body politic. And we refuse to be honest with our citizens. We continue to gaslight them. So for us, this is the protest to save the soul of the nation. And there's a point where enough becomes enough. I think we are seeing that point. And this is why we are here for what we are planning to do on Sunday.
So I have with me a letter that you wrote to the police service requesting, informing them, because that's what the law requires, that you simply inform them that you will embark on this protest. Has the police service responded?
So we are currently still at the police station as we speak, actually. Our surrogates are at the police station. At the first instance, the police were claiming that a letter which is addressed to the Ghana Police Service, Accra, is too vague. So we are waiting for other direction in which they want to be addressed. I don't know of any other way in which to address the Ghana Police Service. So we are still dealing with that process. But whatever the case may be, the most important thing is that the law requires us to give them notice. If they refuse to accept the notice that we are giving to them, well, the law recognizes constructive notice as well. The notice is online, which they're privy to, and we are there trying to actively give this to them. If they're refusing to even accept the letter, then I sort of wonder what kind of democratic society we claim to be in.
So what you're telling us is that whether or not the police accepts your notice today, you will still march on Sunday.
What I'm telling you is that the police have a responsibility in law to accept a notice to them. There's no basis on which they can refuse a notice. We have complied with the law. The letter is very detailed. It's available for everybody to verify. We set out COVID-19 protocols. Even if it is not the place of the police to vet that, they can go to court and decide and let the court decide for them whether or not this is a protest that the Constitution allows at this time.
I just want to have that clarity, Mr. Vomawo. Will you hit the streets if the police says that for one reason or another, they cannot accept your notice as duly seen?
What I am saying to you is that there is no basis in law or in fact or anywhere for the police to say they cannot accept the letter. So we are there now. We are very certain that the police will accept the letter. Because there's no other basis for which they will refuse it. So I anticipate that we are going to go forward having complied with the law.
I'm just asking because you mentioned that the police said you did not address it to the right quarters, sir.
No, the police says a letter addressed to the Ghana Police Service is vague. So we're asking them for direction on how they want to be addressed. If they want to be called Kofi Mensah, we are happy to write that into the protest, into the letter. It is not going to change the fact of what needs to be done. That's what we are trying to do. Do you understand the fine point the distinction I'm trying to draw?
Now, since this hashtag went viral over the weekend, there has been some response on social media, Mr. Vakavomo. Yes. But even before we get to that one, the Energy Ministry is informing us through someone who was at that meeting that there will be a reduction in petrol price. Will that influence your decision to demonstrate in any way?
You know, it is very interesting. It's also very predictable. You know, it's been the way in which governments have acted over the years. But you see, we are at a crisis point. Our letter to the police and the notification to the police says this comes on the back of failures and institutionalized failures and a string of consistent broken promises by successive governments. And it is that frustration with perennial governmental incompetence or refusal or inability to fix the country that is why we are doing this. If the thinking is that a reduction in petrol prices today is what is going to keep this in check, I think they've lost the plot and completely misapprehend why there are 57,000 tweets on Twitter alone endorsing fix the country.
So what of the response that you've been seeing on social media? I've seen some senior members of the ruling party, or the governing party, I must say, say, for instance, that Nana is fixing the country. Some have said that let's fix the country together. What do you make of that response? So,
first of all, I mean, I think that a conversation with our elected government is important. And we will take that conversation, whatever form it comes in. But in speaking back to the massive Ghanaian citizens who are talking, my hope is that the government is reflective, it does a bit of soul searching, and acknowledges the injustice that has been done to people in this country. For some reason, the responses we are getting do not seem to comprehend people's angst and anxiety. And so, for instance, you've seen certain people use very unprintable words like Jimmy, which means that this is foolishness, that we need to fix ourselves before we even think of fixing the country. I'm saying that, I mean, the project of fixing oneself is not mutually exclusive from fixing one country. It goes hand in hand. And so if this is being offered as a counter-narrative for the overwhelming demand about how things are going wrong in this country, then again, the government has completely lost the plot. But a process of fixing oneself also involves acknowledging that your government is not acting right and your state has failed you consistently and calling them to account. And so this is the process of fixing ourselves. So we are having that conversation with them. If that's the way in which they choose to have that conversation, then Ghanaians will have it to better judge for themselves as to when we did move out of the frame of being spectators and engaging the government as citizens. This is the way in which they responded to us. And everybody will be able to see that clearly. So this is the democratic process playing itself out.
But for some of those expressions, they've been retracted, have they not? For instance, the Majority Chief Whip, Mr. Arnold Domprey, has issued an apology for some of the language he used, which I will not repeat here.
So I think we need to hold people accountable more than that, you know? I mean, Honorable Arnold Domprey is a member of Parliament, is chair of the Foreign Affairs Committee in Parliament. Where that came from, you need to dig deep into where the sentiments came from. It was a long statement which contained a whole lot of statements which were printed and crafted into a beautiful art that they put out. within that all long process, there was no soul searching to ask whether this is the right response. It's only in the face of overwhelming criticism about how they are dealing with this that they have come out to give a half-hearted apology. So the problem we need to engage is, why would your government would choose to speak to you this way? And what does it reveal? I think for me, it reveals a long practice or a long habit or habit and practice and thinking that it's in the way in which elite institutions and our institutions relate to us.
So you do not accept Mr. Anodompe's apology?
The apology is not towards me. The apology is for the people of Ghana, I think. That the people of Ghana feel offended by them, and they have to assess for themselves whether or not this is the way in which they want the elected officials to conduct themselves. I mean, apology is one of the easiest things to do. We've seen it consistently. So if the people of Ghana feel that an apology is sufficient, that is for them to judge.
Now, Mr. Bakavomo, I'm going to read a bit of your letter to the police, which is quite interesting. It's captioned "Significance of the Date." It says here, the date May 9th has been spontaneously and specifically chosen for two reasons. First, it captures the restless spirit of the over 126 Ghanaians who lost their lives on the May 9th Accra Sports Stadium disaster due to institutionalized incompetence and disregard for Ghanaian lives. Secondly, the protest commemorates the 26th anniversary of the Kumi Preko demonstration of 11th May 1995. Thus, the event draws inspiration from the undying culture of protest and dissent that has forged our democracy and in which Kumi Preko has become a synonym for our collective memory. I'll ask Fix directly, Mr. Bakavomo. Are you throwing a dig at the president? He was one of the leaders of the Kumi Preko demonstration. Are you simply intended to, jab him?
It is quite interesting to me that you would read this as a jab. And for me, it reveals that you think that the president's conduct in office do not live up to the ideals of Kumi Preko and the ideals he marched for. And if that is the
I'm simply asking a question, Mr. Vomo. I'm just saying, Mr. Vomo, I'm simply asking a question. I would ask that you answer it and not try and make any sort of inferences from my statements. Thank you very much.
Sure. For me, I think the most important thing is that it is clear. Kumi Preko represents in this country. It has nothing to do about the president or chief jobs. It's about what is uniquely Ghanaian. And for me, and for everybody associated with this movement, what is uniquely Ghanaian is being able to express dissent through street-level protest, to be able to gain street-level legitimacy for a protest movement. And that is what we are falling back on what is inspiring about what makes us unique as Ghanaians. And for Kumi Preko, for which we have a lot of respect, represents that in our collective memory. And so we are relying on Kumi Preko, as well as, let's not forget, the 126 Ghanaians who so continues to yearn for a better Ghana, for a Ghana that does not disregard the lives of its citizens. And that's why we are doing this. And so if for anybody, for the president himself, doing a soul searching, realizes that maybe I've strayed too far from what I was marching for some years back, would recognize himself in the young people who are speaking up, and perhaps take the journey that we all needed to take, that political governance in this country must stop undermining confidence and discouraging young people from having a stake in the country and how they want to improve it.
Thank you, Oliver Bakavomo. You're one of the conveners for the hashtag Fix the Country Now protest. He was speaking to us via Zoom. So you heard him say clearly the demonstration is on Sunday. Let's look at some of those social media comments which have dominated this conversation. Gabi Asari Oshiridako, known very well as a leading member of the NPP, says, no patriot can say he or she is against a clarion call to fix our country. After 64 years, we've run out of excuses. Let's get it fixed and fixed now. Together, we can. Well, Kali J says, Ghanaians, hashtag fix the country. MP, no, because you don't respect his summary of the call and the response. Kofi Jamar says, we need a leader tapped in Kwame Nkrumah's spirit, the one that will also learn from his mistakes and focus all his energy into making Ghana, that is the foundation, well established before setting out on the United States of Africa agenda. Ghana is still the chosen hashtag fix the country. King of Accra says, if you think hashtag fix the country is about bashing MPP and holding up another political party, then you are part of the problem because they have both done us wrong. That tweet is doing very well, you can see, with 620 retweets and over 1,400 likes. Black Spider says, all we're asking for is good roads, quality education, good healthcare, jobs with good salaries, affordable rent, good drinking water. Answer me, Mr. Big Man. Is this too much to ask for? Just a simple life is all we're asking for. That, I believe, is a line from Stone Boy's Run Go. Yes, that final line in the tweet there. Right, these people swore hashtags are useless and won't do anything, but they woke up at 6 a.m. to trend a hashtag. Hashtag fix the country. They're still live on the Pulse here on the Joy News channel, still coming up. The men are separated from the boys. The women will show what they're made of. St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Mary's SHS, Accra Girls SHS, and Chemu SHS face off for a place in the national competition of the NSMQ. More from the regional championship, which is ongoing.